At 6 o'clock, we're going to call the Wednesday, May 14th, 2025 school committee meeting to order. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here he comes. Okay. All right. First, the meeting is being recorded by Norton Media, and if anyone else is recording, please just let us know. First up is the public comment period. Anybody here for public comment? Okay. Excellent. Next up is vote to approve the minutes of the April 30th, 2025 open session meeting. Did everybody get a chance?
Yes.
To read? Any comments? No? Changes? Good? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the April 30th, 2025 open session meeting.
So moved.
Second. Okay. All those in favor? Sorry, first night doing this one. Aye. Fantastic. I'm going to pass it over to Dan. Now that he is here, take it over.
That was fantastic, Jesse. Great job.
Oh, you know what? He's just going to pass it right back to me anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
So, my apologies for being late. Warrants, Scanlon.
Yeah, all right, I have reviewed the following school expense warrant, April 30th, 2025, $190,447.01, and the school payroll warrant, May 1st, 2025, for $1,125,691.48. I've reviewed and approved, and I wish to enter that in public record. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the student representative update.
All right. Good evening, everyone. From the middle school, nope, just kidding, from the K, all of our students just finished up their math MCAS testing last week in 5th grade, completed the science, technology, engineering MCAS yesterday. As I mentioned before, our students like our MCAS days as they start the day with outdoor recess, then snack, then testing, then they go to their regular lunch and recess, a second one, and we move their schedule around so they have their special in the afternoon. Our students have done an excellent job taking their time, writing out their thinking, checking their work, answering all parts of all questions, and doing their best. That's all we ask, and we hope it reflects in our scores. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and we cannot thank our teachers and staff for everything they do for our students, and what an awesome luncheon our HPTO put on for them. The 5th grade students started their transition to the Norton Middle School this week as Mr. Hayward, guidance counselor Ms. Alston-Toskis, and several student representatives visited their classrooms this week to give them a sense of what middle school will be like. Then next week, our 5th graders will head over to NMS for a play and a tour. It is always a great day for them to help transition to 6th grade. From the LG, our upcoming 3rd grade students from LGN and JCS have many things planned, as well as our transitioning 3rd graders who are coming up next year. In the coming weeks, they plan for a step-up day. There is a family informational night, and Mr. Gagan and Ms. Berlau will make their yearly visits to each 3rd grade classroom to talk with them about their transition to the L. Our 4th graders will also check out the 2nd and 3rd floors for where they'll be for the next year. From Memorial Day, our students will be doing readings throughout the day to help our students remember and understand why Memorial Day is so important. It's not just a day off or a reason to barbecue. There are many more events we fill you in as we get closer to the end of the year, including field day for both grades, 5th grade Walling Museum field trip, our HPTO buy one get one free Scholastic book fair, and more. We have a lot of work a lot to look forward to. And then this is actually from the JCS. The last one's from the Hay. Last Thursday, the JCS community helped our annual JCS Sea Turtle Day to honor JCS by learning the history of our school, sharing why our school was named the Joseph C. Salamis Elementary School almost 50 years ago. And to celebrate our Sea Turtle mascot, we encouraged and invited all students and staff to wear their JCS gear or JCS purple to school as we celebrate with a variety of activities like school assemblies. A JCS museum is set up in the library, highlighting artifacts and featuring schools and farming pictures and tools. A sea turtle scavenger hunt is set up all around the first floor for students. A third student versus staff volleyball game, and absolutely gorgeous bulletin boards across from the main office to showcase the work the JCS community has done to help injured and cold stunned sea turtles. At the LG, we are finishing up Math MCAS this week with 3rd grade. They have worked really hard and tried their best during each session. We are very proud of them. They will be heading to the Plymouth Pawtucket on their annual field trip at the end of the month. Our kindergartners enjoyed a visit from barn babies. They had an opportunity to interact with goats, chickens, and pigs. A fun time was had by all. Our 2nd graders enjoyed a field trip to Capron Park Zoo last Friday. Rainy weather didn't dampen their spirits as they got to see the most extraordinary animals. Finally, our 1st graders are taking a field trip to Oak Knoll this Friday to enjoy the great outdoors, hoping for good weather. And then from the middle school tomorrow, NMS welcomes a guest speaker, Quentin Champagne, to address all 3 grades about issues relating to mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and all our guest speakers are sponsored in part by Cynthia and Michael Bresnahan and all the people at the Sarah's Village Foundation. On Friday of this week, NMS will be holding our Best Day Ever celebration out in the front of the school. The Best Day Ever celebration is a school-wide reward for all of the work put in by students and families on our fundraiser earlier in the spring. Students are rewarded with several large inflatable attractions, Kona Ice, music, games, and prizes. Next week on Monday, NMS welcomes Janet Applefield once again to come and speak to our students about her experiences as a child survivor of the Holocaust. Miss Applefield has been coming to NMS for many years, and her visits is made possible on an annual basis by the Northern Cultural Council. Drama Club is in the final stages of preparing for their production of Annie happening next week, and NMS encourages everyone to buy tickets and come out to see what promises to be an excellent show. Shows are 7 on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. Tickets can be purchased online or at the door. And then lastly, Norton Middle School is pleased to announce that the following students have been selected as the NELMS Distinguished Students for the 2025-2026 academic school year. Sadie Britton, Morgan Legendry, Alex Payne, and Lucas Delisley. Congratulations to these students on being selected for this honor. And then lastly, from the high school, Norton High School is gearing up for their final month of school. AP tests are winding down. The spring band and chorus concert is tomorrow, May 15th. Students start their Spirit Week on Monday by dressing up as a senior slump. Once seniors leave, juniors will have Spirit Week starting Monday, June 2nd to move up to the role of seniors. One of our most beloved field trips is coming up in just a couple of weeks. Mr. Paulus will lead some History Honor Society students to take the elementary school classes on a tour of Norton. That's all I have for you tonight.
All right, take a deep breath. So we're going to deviate slightly from our agenda, and we're going to ask Antonio to come up to the podium, please. So Antonio has been our representative for 3 years now, and this is his final meeting with us. He will chair later. We will appreciate him. He has brought a lot of good insights, a lot of good reports, and has kind of changed how the representatives interact with us here. So we do have a little something for you, so I'm going to have Dr. O'Neill join you up there.
And I have to say, that was quite the report for your last one, my gosh.
I think that was planned.
I think,
Yeah,
I mean,
throw everything at once.
definitely, I think the longest one you've
Never
had.
happens that all the schools respond. That never happens.
I love that you just called them out like that, too.
Take notice.
So we just have a little thought for Antonio. Antonio will be joining the Bridgewater State University Bears next year. So we have a sweatshirt for him. So thank you so much, Antonio, for 3 years. As a student rep. We're gonna like take a weird picture. So thank you, Antonio.
Sure, thank you.
Any final words?
Thank you and goodbye.
All right, next is slowly becoming one of my favorite nights of the year on our student spotlight is when we find out who represents the senior class as the salutatorian, plural this year, and valedictorian, so Dr. O'Neill.
Okay, thank you. Well, tonight I have the honor of actually recognizing 2 students who are in a statistical tie for the salutatorian, yes, you do know what it's like. And that is Nora Watrous and Zoe Santos. Come on up. I don't ever recall there being a statistical tie for one of our, top students, and Mr. Cersey is, shaking his head as well. So congratulations to you both. It's such an unbelievable accomplishment, and I'm going to take you one at a time to kind of share about your work with our audience. So I'm going to start with you, Nora. Nora is a motivated and diligent student, constantly pushing herself to achieve her best. Her ambition and conscientious nature are evident in everything she undertakes, both in and out of school. Her dedication is not only recognized by her family, but also admired by her peers and teachers alike. Nora's natural leadership skills shine through her roles, such as serving as the varsity captain of the NHS track and field team. Her long-term goal is to become a biomedical engineer, and she is determined to advance medical science. Nora has embraced challenges through her high school career by enrolling in various advanced placement classes, including AP Calc, AP Computer Science, AP Psych, and AP Spanish. She has a particular aptitude for mathematics, which is demonstrated by her receipt of the prestigious Rensselaer Medal in 2024 for outstanding achievement in math and science. Beyond her academic achievements, Nora has also excelled in extracurricular endeavors, holding leadership positions such as Vice President of the Math Honor Society and Historian for the National Honor Society. And Nora will be attending Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, majoring in engineering. Congratulations, Nora. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to give you your certificate, and then you'll stand while Zoe also gets her little thing, and then we'll invite the families up to take some pictures. So there you go. Congratulations. This is good practice. All right, Zoe, you ready? Okay. All right, Zoe Santos is an exceptional student whose passion, humor, and caring nature have left a memorable mark on our school community. As a dedicated student with a love for mathematics, Zoe has set her sights on pursuing a major in accounting. Zoe's academic journey is a testament to her determination. She has consistently pushed the boundaries of her education by enrolling in rigorous AP and honors courses during her time at Norton High School. This year, Zoe is taking AP Computer Science, AP Calc, and AP Economics. Zoe earned the prestigious Presidential Award of Academic Excellence in both business and math, as well as the AP Scholar with Distinction Award. I remember when we did that earlier this year. These distinctive awards are a reflection of Zoe's academic excellence. In addition, Zoe has been part of 8 honor societies and was even named Vice President of the Honor Spanish Society. Beyond the classroom, Zoe is a natural leader and an inspirational figure among her peers. As a captain of the Norton High School soccer team, indoor track, and outdoor track teams, she embodies a spirit of teamwork and perseverance. Zoe will be attending Quinnipiac University, where she'll be majoring in accounting, and in November was signed on to the Quinnipiac track team. Congratulations, Zoe. The 3 of us together, and then we'll have families come up. All right, we're ready? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Cersei.
Just don't get your
You
thumb.
pulled out your camera, so
Okay, you
that's
thought-
how you got it. All right, so families here today?
Yes.
All right, come on up. So maybe Zoe with mom, and then maybe everybody together? Yeah. And then like, what was I say? Zoe with mom and dad, and then Nora with mom, and whatever works. Stop coordinating.
Next.
All right, now everybody together? One big happy family.
Do you want to go in there?
That's all right. All right, congratulations. And now I have the honor of introducing our valedictorian, Jacob Berry. Come on up, Jacob. Jacob Berry is a highly motivated, ambitious, and responsible young man with an unquestionable work ethic. Wow, that's a pretty good first sentence, right? He's in the process of completing a highly rigorous program and has taken a multitude of honors and AP courses. Jacob has been able to maintain a 4.8 GPA and is currently ranked number 1 in the class. Jacob's academic success has allowed him to be on the highest honor roll consistently, and he is a member of the National Spanish Honor Society, which he's also president of. Jacob was the 2024 recipient of the Academic Award for Excellence in Science and History. In 2022, Jacob earned the Academic Achievement Award in Business, and he has been class president for all 4 years of high school. Jacob's leadership skills go beyond the classroom as he utilizes these skills within his roles as a Boy Scout, an Eagle Scout, if I remember correctly, right? Congratulations. Jacob not only values education, but he has been a valuable student voice in the school community and student government. He is a student that others strive to emulate and has been a positive role model for his peers. Jacob will continue his academic pursuits as he attends Dartmouth College, where he will be majoring in government political science in the fall of 2025. He will undoubtedly excel in this new chapter and make a lasting positive impact, just as he did at Norton High School. And here is your certificate for valedictorian. Congratulations. All right, Mom and Dad are here as well. Sorry, my hands are stuck yet. Come over so they can walk you guys together.
Can I go in?
Sure. Thank you.
Congratulations to you all. It's remarkable accomplishments. I feel like some of you have been at more meetings than some of us have in the last couple of years. And it's a true testament to your hard work, both on and off the field. So congratulations to you all. Anyone else?
I just want to echo what Dan said, but also your families too. What amazing support systems that you have and the teachers you've had along the way. So just wonderful, and congratulations and best of luck as you move on from Norton, but always remember us.
And this is just the beginning of the celebration. So we're looking forward to graduation and class night and everything else with you all. Congratulations. You have all represented Norton High School very, very well in your years with us, and we couldn't be prouder.
Our next item is vote to approve the Norton custodial contract, local 1702. Dr. White.
Okay, so before you tonight, you have the MOA for the from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2028 for the Norton custodial unit. And as you can see, there are a few updates here. They're all highlighted in red. We tried to, right now the Norton Custodians Association has like 3 different groups within their organization based on dates of hire, and so we tried to clean up a lot of that language, and so it wasn't confusing for people based on where they were. And thanks to Nick, who sat on this group with us, so appreciate that. And you just need to vote on it.
Any questions, comments?
Just a quick shout out to the custodian union. I think we met with them quickly 3 times, became ready, prepared, and couldn't have asked for an easier, smoother negotiation with them.
Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the contract between Norton Public Schools and the Norton Custodial Union as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is discussion and vote on student parking fee with Mrs. Hatfield.
So we are looking to increase the current parking fee at the high school for the student parking spots. It is currently $25. It has been that for several years, and we're hoping to increase it to $75 for next year, starting in FY26. This is due to the rising costs that are associated with maintaining the parking lot, which is repainting the lines and numbers. It's also, we use it for the maintenance when it comes to the snow and ice removal, and just to keep up with the rising costs, we're hoping to increase it. We also did some comps of the surrounding areas, And the communities that do have a fee, we're on the lower end, lowest.
When was the last time this was changed? And I believe last time, did it go down at some point?
Yes, initially, I believe a while ago, it was about $100, and we had a significant amount of money in that account because it can only be used for parking in that lot. So we are down pretty low at this point. It's, also one of the other things is, parking is privilege, and sometimes if the high school feels that a student should not be able to bring their car as part of progressive discipline, it's not losing out too much when it's only a $25 fee. Those of you who are at the high school often may notice that we've got some beautiful orange barrels wrapped around one of the poles at the top right-hand corner of the lot. We'd like to put something more permanent there as well, and this increase will allow us to do that.
Questions?
I got a few. One, how many parking passes do we sell on average?
Currently, it's about 180.
Okay. And then that money does it go to a revolving parking lot account?
Yes.
It's a portion of facilities, but that money can only be spent for that lot.
So what's the quick math? What would the increase give us from one?
So right now we bring in around 4,000, a little over, and it would be up to over 13,000.
Okay. And then, and then Jen, you were saying we can take away privileges. So here's my thing that I don't like about parking passes. If you're charging someone to park, why can we take away a privilege? Because it's not a privilege to pay for it, correct?
Correct, but there's also no skin in the game if, students aren't paying too much. So, ultimately, having the right to park your car at the high school is something that, people pay for. We could say that if there's a behavior issue, you're not allowed to have that right for the following year or something along those lines. If people were inappropriate in the parking lot, which does happen from time to time, and, donuts and, being reckless, as, sometimes happens. So that's something that we could consider as well.
Does staff pay?
Staff do not pay.
I'd make a motion to say no, but that's all I have for discussion points.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the price increase as presented. You can vote no against it.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Just
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Those opposed?
I know, I'm sorry.
Opposed, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Over. Passes.
Thank you.
All right, next is review and vote on school committee meeting dates.
Okay, so these Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Here again in the Crane Meeting Room, unless noted otherwise. Typical calendar for the events, we try to meet twice a month. There are some months in this proposal where we only meet once, so for example in November, as well as February. But we would also have, in February, we typically have our Saturday budget session in there as well. And this would entail the school committee traveling to each of the 5 schools at the beginning of the year. We do a little bit of a tour, so that you guys can see the schools and hear from the principals. But this is our proposal for the upcoming school year, and we try to miss those nights where we had open house or other things as well.
Okay, any questions? Nope. Entertain a motion to approve school committee meeting dates for 25-26 school year.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is review and vote on elementary and middle school student family handbook updates. Mr. Haywood and Dr. O'Neill.
If our salutatorians and valedictorian would like to leave, you're certainly welcome to do so. You do not have to hang out with us all night. Go celebrate.
Well, as hopefully you've reviewed the changes I've submitted in the packet, I can answer questions or provide a rationale, which I did in the packet. So for audience members who don't have it in front of you, it might not make total sense, but there were several pages of changes, most of which I think are routine and not really earth-shattering. Some of it, for the most part, is to align our practice with our policies and how they're actually enacted. On page 1, it has to, of the recommendations was under student absences. It's very difficult to replicate what happens in a classroom. In fact, that's where all the magic happens. We tried that. It was called COVID. So attendance is important, and it's next to impossible to have my teachers duplicate that. So this request or belief that work can just be given at the end of the day or sent is not really practical. At the middle school, we have a couple of things. Some that have been long-standing, like our ICE, which is in our master schedule, our intervention, correction, and enrichment block, on which students can meet with teachers, get work that they need to make up, get some support to do that. We also have recently, I think it was included in the previous contract, was the office hours for all secondary teachers, middle school, that we post. Teachers tell me what the days are. We post that at the beginning of the year. Parents can link to it on the website. It goes home monthly in our newsletter, which is a thing, so you can sign up. So we do have many vehicles to support makeup work. Our broader policy talks about you have as many days, if you were out 3 days, upon your return you have 3 days plus an additional day to get that work done. So you'd have 4 days after you return if you were absent for 3 days to do that work. It's just not practical. Homework too, if you remember, it's like homework used to be, I would say, vastly different from 15 years ago when you handed out papers. When I was a teacher, I wouldn't let the kid leave the room with a piece of paper because I would never see it again, nor would they. Now much of the work is done on computers, and homework has, for many of the subject areas, has kind of evolved into set a nice practice of giving kids time. Finish what you haven't finished at home. But there's really not necessarily as much homework as people think there are, which is why I struck that from our policy. Homework is not, a lot of times it's just extended time to do that great stuff that's happening in the classroom. That again can't be replicated just on the spot. I also want my teachers to be responsive to what's in front of them. Oftentimes you don't know what's going to happen on Thursday of the week, and I don't necessarily want them to know that. I want them to be responsive, and have to reteach a lesson or go over something. It's going to change where they're at on Thursdays. So again, this thing's related to absences, had a lot to do with just aligning to our practice and updating things related to Google Classroom, which when these original things, we just didn't have that. And I think at this point it's so broadly adopted that we can stop putting it into the handbook as, that's our practice. Okay, teaming is another thing. A lot of times we have questions about, what team is my child going to be on. We're doing more cross-teaming now than we've ever done before, but I wanted to put into there a little insight into the process of deciding teams and the various factors that go into that. So I kind of just put a rationale right into the handbook that, we can't necessarily always do it about friendships. Social relationships are important at school. I actually want kids to have friends at school and be social. It's a big part of it. However, that can't be the deciding factor. We do a lot to break down cliques. I can't be a party to creating them. And then the perception that you have a winning team and a losing team, and if we get on that team, that's the team to be on. So that's really not a deciding factor. We do, while we don't solicit information, we do welcome information about a child, like, hey, my child would learn best with these types of teachers, whether it's a lot of structure or people who might have training in this thing. So we do take into account that stuff when it's delivered to us, but we don't solicit it because keeping track of the web of the friendships of 12-year-olds. It's ever evolving. We can never keep track of it. Kids who leave fighting on Friday are holding hands on Monday when they walk in. So that's very difficult. So we just put some stuff in there about that because that's a big thing at the start of the year. Discipline guidelines. We had something in there related to penalties occurring after May 15th that would be subject to a suspension, could carry additional penalties related to end of the year celebrations and so on. Just to try to maintain order as kids get like 8th grade itis, senioritis, but for 8th grade and things like that. But the school year's been ending early. We haven't had as many snow days, and some of these things are getting moved up. So we want to move that date to May 1 to leverage all the great things that we do above and beyond the curriculum in the classroom. And because of the law, Chapter 222, which changed what you can be suspended for, we needed to change that language, that it's not only suspendable offenses, but we're putting it under the umbrella of alternative discipline measures that we take at the school. Below that, it's a small update, course offerings, just some stuff to do with our schedule. Necessary edits prior to printing. Now, the biggest change is the good standing policy. It's something that has not been in place at the middle school in my 11 years. Something that when I was a high school principal, we did do for seniors with senior privileges and things like that. So I'm somewhat familiar about the power of it, about the effectiveness of it. And some of the rationales, we want to leverage all the opportunities and events and different things that we take place to maintain order in the school. And academics and attendance. So there's a 3-part rubric as to what can make you fall out of good standing. Again, attendance is a big issue. Even talked about earlier in the policy, like being there is so important. So trying to encourage good attendance amongst students. Academics, academic achievement, and failure and things like that, and passing problems on to the next grade. It's an inescapable truth that the student is the most important part of their education. And in fact, I always talk to Mr. Goldstein at the end of the school year, since we don't correct any papers, we don't grade anything, how do we know we're successful? And basically the short answer to that is that when that student walking out on the last day of school in 8th grade care more about their education than their teachers and even their parents do. And if they can hit that going into high school, we're in a really good spot. So academics is important. And then finally, behavior. So those 3 key ingredients, individually for a student, but also our school as a whole, are so important. So we want to have some type of good standing policy. As far as the numbers, there are some things there that interested and involved readers like yourselves would see, like there's some to be determined, which you probably don't want to vote on something that says TBD. I get it. But what we really want to do is establish it in the handbook and then look at data from this past year at, say, the 2 or 3% of students. And we have a very powerful tool called Panorama that the district pays for, probably still underutilized. We're getting better at it all the time, where we can easily cull this data and then really try to develop a rubric. Those numbers would be announced. People by default would be in good standing. So if the pilot takes a while to get up and running, everyone just remains in good standing like they are now. Technically, we don't have a policy, but everyone's in good standing, can attend everything and so on. And then if we want to look at that data and run those numbers, we can announce to the community, this is the good standing rubric, here are the numbers, we're going to implement it starting term 2, maybe give a dry run term 1, because again, you don't have the academic or attendance behavior really for us until December 1, the end of term 1. And then you'd have term 2. So we could run it, say, if we were active right now, this is where you would be, and then term 2, and then, have the numbers. And frequently, there's stuff in the handbook right now, currently, that I would say, enforcement. I'll give you an example. You can't have earbuds allowed in the school and headphones. Recently, I met with staff, team leaders, and they gave me feedback that we didn't have real consistent enforcement. So it was a thing. So we sent home an email clarifying our enforcement around that policy. We've always had it in the handbook, we just clarified the enforcement. I envision us doing something similar like that, but this is kind of a complex thing that I would like to get in the handbook, do the data, and then, just like with the policy with the earbuds, gives parents and students ample warning, kind of do a dry run term 1, in practice and enforcement term 2, and then hopefully effective and serving us well in term 3. I think it will go a long way. Some of the restrictions down there could be school dances. At the middle school, we don't have as much as high schools do, but we have school dances, athletics. As a spectator, kids love going to those games, and if we can encourage them to love their schoolwork and attendance and respect their teachers as much as they love the games, that would be great. Assemblies, field trips, socials and other festivals, participations in clubs while not in good standing. The other important thing, class celebrations and so on, privileges, incentives, is that, and also in the policy, it talks about restorative pathways back to good standing. Again, it's really leveraging carrots and sticks to get the most out of individuals in our school. So we put in there restorative pathways back. It's not like a hard and fast. If you fall out of good standing, you meet with your team of teachers, you develop a plan, you make agreements, like if it's an attendance issue, you know, for the rest of this term, you're only gonna, you know, have fewer than this many absences. So you can kind of set goals. Or academics, you'll attend after school extra help sessions. You'll complete makeup work. Behavior, you won't have referrals to the office. So we can provide pathways back within there. And yeah, that's about it. So I can answer any questions you may have.
So I have 2 questions, and I think one of them you might have touched on, but I want clarity on it.
Okay.
So when we're talking about the social suspension athletics as a spectator, are we also anticipating athletes themselves possibly having?
No, because there's well-developed policies by the MIAA, which our middle schools fall under, related to how many subjects you fail and so on. There's also a bit of a monetary commitment to that. You know, if they fall out of good standing, I mean, some of it would overlap naturally if you're not in good standing because of attendance and you're failing classes, chances are you might not qualify for the team anyways, and the coach might not be counting on you, and coaches can remove players easier than principals can.
Yeah.
But there's already developed policies with the MIA, so I didn't want to delve into that. And again, our sports, one of the reasons why I really like the growth of middle school sports, we might have 15 kids on a softball team or a basketball team. I have 100 kids after school, so sports really do benefit our entire school community, not just the athletes, but that's a very small section. This is kind of a broad policy for everybody.
So the second, and again, I think you touched on this, so just a little bit of clarity. So if it's within, say, a season called basketball, and they're not in good standing at the beginning of that term, if they go through the process with their teachers, with you, they can then not necessarily miss the whole season of spectating, but they can miss like a week while they're kind of building their agreement.
We don't want it, so you never want to develop a policy so rigid that it causes a student to give up. The whole idea of this policy, the real philosophy behind it is to motivate kids and to get them to want to do these things and meet these marks. It's not about sorting kids into bad piles and good piles and good standing and bad standing. It's about motivating kids to move wherever they are, whatever status they're at. So that could be in flux during the thing. Again, meet with your teachers, come up with an agreement. If teachers say this kid's working hard, we want to do that to motivate them. It's meant to motivate, not to exclude.
Okay. Any other questions?
So I think just to piggyback off of what Dan was saying in terms of monetary aspect of this. So I do know that field trips are paid for as well as after school activities. So
I'll give you your money back.
this is what I'm
for anybody. It's like, you want the money back? Here's get the money.
Right, but that would be the only stipulation to that. Especially the
It's
field
not,
trips.
we're not using this to raise funds.
Right, I mean, the field trip's a one-time thing, so I get the participation in the clubs, if it is they get back in good standing, they can go back to participating in the clubs, so that's one thing, but the field trip, that's a one-time deal, so, and I'm just thinking about it was like $180 or something to go to New York, so.
We've returned money this year to someone.
Okay.
We've returned money this year. Sometimes that we can do that, I'll return the money.
Just curious of what the mindset was when it kind of came to that part.
For us, for this policy, we return the money. We've done that in the past with different things. It's kind of cumbersome for Christine to get it back. It has to go through town hall. But our intention would be to return the money. We don't need it that much. I'd rather have the kid, work and get in good standing.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So for something like a field trip, they we'll use New York. They're not showing up the day of the New York trip to tell them they can't go. They've been given the
Oh,
opportunity.
yeah, they would be, well, so the dates and the parameters around that would be the terms.
Yep.
So September, 1, everyone's in good standing. No one has grades issued yet. No one has caused any trouble yet. It's 8:30, give it time. Okay, so no one's caused any trouble yet, and attendance is pretty good. So it's really after term 1 that we would get those data points, and it would be for term 2, and then for term 3, the end of the year. You can't carry good standing over the summer. Everyone starts with a clean slate.
Okay.
But yeah, so there would be ample notice.
Nick, did you have something?
Yeah, I guess, Vinny, why wouldn't if you were bad standing
Yeah.
after the spring, June, whatever, why would we allow them to be in good standing again?
Because, again, to the philosophy of something like this, especially at the middle school level, it's the restorative part and providing a pathway back. So if we have something that students like, one of the things, even like Chromebooks, we knew kids loved technology and they were already engaged with it, so we paired our curriculum with that because they like technology, they're engaged with Chromebooks, so how can we kind of match up with that? Again, if you like these things and we can leverage them, can we do that with your behavior, with your attendance? So you will have to do that, and that's why we put right in there, right in the handbook, a pathway back. And that would tie in with stuff that we work with Dr. Ackerman on, like intervention plans. It's an intervention plan. A lot of times you think about it as getting math help or doing extra help after school, with fractions and decimals or working on a project. But sometimes behavior, attendance, those need interventions too. This would be a tool to work out an agreement or a plan and then stick to it. Some kids, have become, it's unfortunate and it's what we're trying to change, but academic consequences, they become immune to, behavioral consequences. So when consequences don't work, you have to leverage stuff that they like. And again, the toughest kid to deal with is a kid that's not involved, not engaged. So when I find out they like going to games, even if they're not on the team, and they're doing it well, we have to find a way to leverage that and not to, cut them off, but to find, okay, you're not in good standing, we need you to do this so you can go to those activities that you like or participate. So that we would have that even in term 3. I mean, in fact, if we didn't have that, this policy would do the exact opposite, because I have a bunch of people who would totally checked out at all and saying, I got nothing to lose. That's the last kid that I want in the building, the nothing to lose kid.
And then,
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna piggyback that too. I think starting clean slate too, in theory, if they are on a team where they are heavily influenced by the group of friends or whatever, and then the following year starts and they're separated and they're on a different team, and now they maybe have more opportunity of just being themselves and not following through. Clean slate is always a good way to start things
yeah,
up in the school year.
just worries me a little bit that I can only picture that the end of the year is probably a little crazy. Kids trying to, nice weather, kids trying to get out of there. That if there's, they get to a situation where they're in bad standing and then they have a clean slate. My thing is, I absolutely love this.
Yeah.
But I would almost just be a little cautious of that. My next question anyway though was
I don't think we're allowed to carry penalties over. It's not a matter of a decision.
so this isn't a penalty, correct?
Well, we're not allowed to carry over. I mean, it's not a penalty, but it's kind of a ranking, because I'm holding over discipline that ended the previous year in academics. So it's something that we're not allowed. I don't disagree with you in some ways. In fact, I wish kids could carry their good reputations forward. I wish I could be like this kid. Hey, you get this kid in there, everything else, and so it's kind of tough that we give everyone a clean slate. I don't feel bad for the kids who who maybe misbehaved and maybe, that could be leveraged even further. I feel bad for the kids that work all very hard, like the kids we had here, and we say, hey, you got a clean slate. If I was that kid, it'd be like, clean slate? I busted my back. So no, I wouldn't have a clean slate, so I would be up here. But anyways.
No, I get it. And then how do you anticipate this, or what is the tie back to PBIS?
It's PBIS is kind of like a school-wide and an individual thing where you're kind of recognizing and acknowledging really like the 80% of our kids, 80%, so you have a small, like 5% of the kids that are causing trouble that might fall into bad standing or like on that cusp. And then you have 10% of the kids, like again, the kids who were just here, and Antonio and Benson and all the kids, and they're out here. Then you have 80% of the kids that kind of pass through our school, do everything that's expected of them, really make the school hum. When the teacher walks in, open up your Chromebooks, and they open them up. And it's not, captain of the football team or star the drum player, but they really make our school hum and things go along. And PBIS is just acknowledging and recognizing them meeting expectations. Excellence is often doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. And that's really what I think makes the middle school good. We do kind of ordinary things. We just try to do them really, really well. And that's what PBIS is. This is a little bit not totally like that, because again, it's really getting at that 5%, that bubble that we need to start to leverage stuff because they become immune to academic and behavioral penalties.
My last question is the restorative pathway back.
Yeah.
Who is the final, someone's got to be the final decision maker. Would that be Principal Goldstein, Vice Principal Goldstein, you, guidance?
Yeah.
Who's kind of that
I would, no one's smarter than the room. I would let the team decide that the people who are working with those kids, who have worked with those kids, who will be implementing the plan. I'd always like to know about the plan, but ultimately I would prefer to defer to the staff that's working with them. But again, we, and I, myself, Mr. Goldstein, kind of give parameters, but with parameters, I give permission to get stuff done for kids. I don't, try to micromanage everything. My staff may or may not like that. I just say, get it done, and for the most part, they get it done.
And then what about buy-in? Do the teachers, is there buy-in from the teachers? Do the students how was this all made?
I met with team leaders who then met with their teams and discussed the policy and brought some feedback to me. I then implemented that feedback. I don't really run everything by referendum, so I didn't take an up or down vote amongst the teachers. I run it by consensus building, and then, frankly, my expertise.
Anybody else?
Still all the questions.
I absolutely love it. Great job.
Thank you.
Would you guys like to vote on the middle school handbook first, and then we'll...
Can I just make one thing before we start voting on the handbooks? I asked Jen if we could look at a district-wide cell phone policy as well. So I would like to make, if we start making motions, just make it a fact that...
So we do have a district-wide cell phone policy currently. It's IJNDA.
Yeah, it's not...
And it's off and away. That was what was approved, and let me look at the date. 2022. So I know that there is a policy or a practice. I don't want to say the word policy because you guys write policy. There's a practice at the middle school in regards to cell phones. Vinny, would you just be willing to share what that is?
Yeah, students are allowed to have cell phones. They're not allowed to use them. Teachers can't play cat and mouse all day with what's going on with the cell phone. We have it that a teacher can ask at any time to confiscate a cell phone if they believe it's interfering with their ability to teach or a student's ability to learn, an entire class or a single student. Mr. Goldstein, we know better how many write-ups we get related to cell phones. And again, sometimes we have it in our handbook, and sometimes, frankly, we have to tighten up our enforcement around the policy, and that's where you'll hear stories and this and that. Sometimes teachers allow kids to use it. I had a kid, a class that I was covering, and the teacher sent along a note. He can, he listens to the audio book and looks along on his phone. Okay, all right, you can use it. So kids can carry the devices, but again, we don't want it to interfere with teaching and learning in the building. 6th grade has far less problems because fewer of their students even have the devices. I know my daughter's in 6th grade. She's not watching. Anyways, she's waiting for the Celtics to start, but she's not getting on the phone for a while. When you get to 8th grade, it's a lot more, so those teachers would probably have a different take on it. But we don't, I think they do interfere with teaching and learning in the building. Makes for a much louder lunchroom. During COVID, when we had the phones, it was very quiet. Not just because they were separated, but they would look at their technology. Probably hampered their social skills, and we have to do a lot because they're middle school. But yeah, that's kind of the policy practice.
So you're going to see something in the elementary handbook tonight that talks about technology devices. And then I know Dr. Dahlman and his team have been trying to put something more concrete into the handbook for the upcoming year as well. What we can do is we can bring back the cell phone policy that we currently have. If you guys want to see that and take a look at it, we can happy to do that.
Yeah, so I guess the point then is we can vote on these as is, if you will, and then we can always just revisit the cell phone policy. And if the cell phone policy, if we change it or keep it the same or whatever it may be, it would go over these handbooks anyway, correct?
So we would adjust the handbook language to fit the new policies.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's all I want to know.
we used to print handbooks. We don't do that anymore. It just goes up online or as an attachment in principal's emails. So it's a little bit different in terms of like needing to have it done at a certain time. So we can bring that back if the committee would like us to.
All right, so entertain a vote to approve the middle school handbook updates as presented.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is elementary handbook. Dr. Ray.
So I'm going to go over the elementary changes with you tonight, since this does cover all 3 of our elementary schools. Little Lancers does have their own independent handbook. There are no changes other than dates in that, so that's why it's not in front of you. So we have 2 changes in the handbook for elementary students. The first one is on page 10. It is personal technology device / valuable and fad items. So I think the word fad is kind of funny, but I'm thinking like, I don't know, Tamagotchis or like fidget spinners or things like that. Clearly showing my age here.
Yeah, I get it.
So, talking about the, understanding of the fact that technology is an integrational part. However, we are asking students at JCS and LGN to not bring any personal electronic devices and or accessories to school. Sometimes it's not necessarily cell phones at these lower grades, but it might be like a Nintendo Switch or some other gaming device that kids are bringing with them. Sometimes we see iPads. So we are asking that students not be allowed to do that. At the Yale School, we do have students in grades 4 and 5 with cell phones. Mr. Hayward mentioned his daughter Gianna in 6th grade does not. However, my 6th grader, who's the youngest at my house, does, so it's a little bit different. So at the Yale School, saying that it must be in their backpack, cubby, or locker during the school day. And then, of course, that the district is, or the school is not responsible for any lost or damaged items. That is number 1. Number 2 is on page 31, and it is about class placement. And this is something that we deal with every single summer, where parents have a particular request for a teacher. And so we just wanted to put something in writing that we have a process for selecting students and putting students together in a classroom. We want to take into factors into consideration such as learning styles, classroom performance, their peer relationships, etc. We welcome input from families when it comes to their child's placement. However, we will not consider specific staffing requests. So happy to answer any questions about those.
So there's not any way to put like a specific date on class assignments, right? Because I know, some schools are sometimes earlier, some are later, and I mean, I
So
remember
we're-
years ago, you got your teacher of the next year when you walked out of school.
Yes, so
Um,
we typically try to have placements out around August 15th. It's not a date that's set in stone, but we do try to have them all out at the same time. All elementary buildings will typically send out the emails to families on the same day. Middle school does theirs around the same time, and high school schedule is typically the last to happen.
When you walk in.
It's very small.
Day one.
But yeah, so, and again, sometimes we have staff changes over the summer. We get, new students enrolling. We have things that need to be switched at the last moment. So we try to not send them out until, mid-August.
Any questions? Entertain a motion to approve the elementary school handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next is district alignment discussion and vote. Dr. O'Neill.
Okay, thank you. So tonight I have some information. This started out as a school start time conversation, and then we, discussed the fact that if we're going to do this and do this right and do it once, for now, that we really need to look at other items, and discussed looking specifically at the way that our lines are drawn in our community between JCS and LGN, looking specifically at school start times, and also looking at the ways that our schools are set up in terms of grade levels. So at the request of the committee, I did some background work and some digging, and spoke with 3 different companies around a district alignment study. What I had shared with each of them is, number one, I shared the, interesting setup that Norton Public Schools currently has in terms of LGN and JCS starting at such significant times. We have the Yale School where you're either coming in 4th grade or you're leaving in 5th, and it's a quick 2 years there, and then, the way our high school and middle schools are set up. And, ultimately, we're looking for a process that will triangulate the consultant with our leadership team, but also with that existing working group that we already have formed that has done a lot of this work so far. And coordinate that with, frequent reporting to not just the school committee as the, board who will be making the ultimate vote and decision on what we move forward with, but also with the community as well. As, when you start talking about changing start times, you start talking about redrawing district lines, that is something that people get very passionate about. And the other thing that I was really clear with this committee, or with these 3 different consultants about, was that it's really important for someone from Norton, whether that's myself or the school committee, to be the voice and the face of this work. I think we all know that having someone come in from the outside as a consultant, that there is a level of mistrust, or that they're being sold something. And so personally, I feel really strongly about being the face of whatever this might be. And so, engaging with a consultant looks a little bit different from that perspective. You wouldn't necessarily need someone here with us at every meeting, at every forum, at every task force. So that's kind of where these quotes are coming from. So I have 3 quotes for you. I have Dillinger Research and Applied Data. This is more of a la carte approach, is probably the best way for us to consider it. After conversations with them, they recommended doing more of an hourly rate, because we have started some of this work. So we have some survey data, and we have some transportation information, and we have feedback from families. So they would support us with the project management piece, the pulling of all of our enrollment data, and taking a look at what trends are coming down the road for us, what building is coming, take a look at our current lines and metrics, and then also doing this geo mapping, which is, I think, the area where I basically said, yeah, no, that is not my area of expertise. They have people that work within, all three of these companies that are able to take a map of Norton. We show them where our lines are. We give them addresses of our current students and their grade levels, and they put all of that together into a very technical map for us to be able to project out what any changes would look like over the next few years. That would be at $140 an hour, and they're looking at 75 to 150 hours. They've worked with Acton Boxborough, Andover, and Greater New Bedford Vocational Technical High School. And as you guys know, with the vocational technical high schools, that's like looking at 7 or 8 communities altogether. I have a second proposal here for you tonight from Ross Haber Associates. This is more, as I shared with you, Dillinger is a little bit more like, we decide as a team what we need them to work on for us, where Ross Haber is more of an overarching proposal. They would look specifically at our enrollment data, the use of our current facilities, along with the grade level groupings that we currently have, school groupings, and then the bell time and transportation. They would, start with the data collection components, really looking at our demographic analysis, redistricting, looking at attendance, equity, and transportation. And the goal of both companies is to really help us look at what our resources are and what is the best long-term solution for Norton based on this work. Ross Haber it's a total project cost of $19,500. They've most recently worked with Attleboro Public Schools and Stoneham. And you have their proposal there. And then the third company that I spoke with, and I don't have a full proposal from them, and I'm going to share why, is the Sanborn Map Company, and they were actually recommended to me by Watertown Public Schools, and their full project cost was between $90,000 and $110,000. So I said, thank you so much for the information, and we hung up. Ultimately, and I'll be really honest with the audience here and with the committee, I don't think there's a bad approach here for either of these companies. I think they're both extremely reputable. Dillinger is based out of Connecticut. Ross Haber is based out of New Jersey. They have done work in Massachusetts. They have been extremely responsive to what I said our challenges were. We talked about budget, we talked about transportation, we talked about the fact that, our current model for school start times, we've been doing this for 21 years and it's not working and we need to make some changes. Part of me really likes the a la carte approach of Dillinger because potentially we could need less than the 150 hours and really be able to tailor the work that we want them to do. When you look through their proposal, there's a little bit more in terms of engaging with the community. But then I could also argue for Ross Haber because quite honestly, you know what it's going to cost up front. And I mean, ultimately, I'm happy to answer any questions that are here. And I don't think there's a bad decision for us here. Christine actually was attending the Mass Association of School Business Officials conference earlier today and attended a redistricting session, and she definitely has details that she can share with you. But the primary thing that people were saying is like the geo-mapping, like that is really important to have someone who is a professional that is able to do that work for you. And that, I think ultimately these two first quotes that we have here will help us get this work across the finish line. That is the problem that we've had we've talked about school time, start times, like when Joe was here and prior to that as well. This is the next step for that work. We haven't had someone come in and do that, the mapping and the predictions. So those are my thoughts. Happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Both of these companies, they both do geo-mapping,
Yes,
and then they both will look at facility usage and
yes,
how we've kind of discussed what is the best approach.
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Both, I mean, really all three of them, but
Right.
I'm pretty sure that last one's not a contender. But yes, they will, the system and output will be very similar. I spoke with Keith Taverna from Andover. We had a great conversation about his work with Dillinger, and then I also spoke to Dave Sawyer from Attleboro, and he had great things to say about Ross Haber. Ultimately, the product will be very similar. It's just really, do we want to go with something that, as I said, I think it's important for us to be the face of this work. So when you look at Ross Haber's proposal, there's really nothing in there at all about, engaging with the community and shareholders, where Dillinger does talk more about that. And I think if I was to pick something, and having that company help us and support us maybe with analyzing some of the data that we already have collected from the surveys and helping us say, okay, what other information do we need perhaps from staff or from families, and helping us to put together those presentations would be beneficial, where I don't think you would get that from Ross Haber.
So looking at these, so with that hourly rate, if we went to the maximum of the 150 hours, it would be $21,000 versus the Ross Haber guarantee of $19,500. So it's really, a risk difference of $1,500.
Correct.
I like the idea of the fact that, we do have a group of people that have been doing the work, which shouldn't be just dismissed and disregarded. So the fact that Dillinger is looking, would take that into consideration, I think would be appreciated. So that's just, and again, I went through all of the information of Dillinger yesterday, and it seemed rather comprehensive, which I thought was really good. Looking through quickly at what we have here for this proposal from Ross Haber, it's literally just a list of, hey, here's where we've worked. And so, I don't know, my opinion is I prefer Dillinger over Ross Haber, but that's just me.
Well, and I think with Dillinger, to your point, is we've started the process, and then we realized that we need a little help. So now we have to find the help and find the qualified people that can help us do that. And it seems like Dillinger is willing to kind of work with us and say, all right, well, here's what we think, but what do you think about what we're trying to show you? Versus the other company seems like they'll be like, here you go, this is what we recommend, and we don't maybe have a voice in the room. So that's kind of where I was thinking. So I mean, I think, I don't want to say $1,500 isn't a lot, but I would think because we've started the process, we can cut down on those hourly rates because we've done some of the work. So I think there could be a closer gap on that final total.
If we're giving someone $20,000, we're sure as hell going to have a voice in the room.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily, I don't know. I personally, and again, we just did get the Ross Haber one tonight, but like when I'm looking at this, you have obviously a ton of different schools that they worked with across New England and New Jersey. The Noah Attleboro, Stoneham is one of our, which is kind of weird, but it's one of our dark districts in terms of town and management of town, if you will. I mean, do you have, to me, do you have all the information that Dillinger has? I don't know if I'm sold on making a call right now on this in terms of spending the money, because that's my first question. How are we paying for this?
It would have to be through school choice.
Okay, and then, and in terms, I mean, I don't mind the a la carte. What I don't like about the a la carte is you're gonna have, I feel like sometimes when you do it that way, yes, you can save a little bit of money, but I also feel like things can kind of get left behind a little bit, because unless someone's really engaged with exactly what's going on, it does put more work on the district and admin and school committee and principals and everybody else a little bit more. And I think to, Laura's point, 75 to 150 hours, that's, almost $10,000 difference. That's a pretty chunk of them. It's a big number one way or another, so I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if it's best to have a rep come in, kind of get to know these companies a little bit better. I know we obviously want to move on it quick. However, I just feel like with a thing that could really dictate what our schools look like, what this town is made up of. It is going to affect everybody in town one way or another, pretty much. I wouldn't want to jump into something without having 100% confidence in one of these companies, and quite frankly, I don't right now.
So one of the other things, and I don't want to speak for Christine, is, talking with different companies. It doesn't really matter which group you work with or what, because there were other groups there today that she saw as well. It's a huge amount of work. Like this, what did they say? This is the worst experience of their life. So, I mean, that sounds like a great time. So I think that, regardless, and if we want to bring people out, we can certainly do that. I think at least Christine and I have had the conversation that this is going to be a huge amount of work for us. And theoretically, it's probably going to be June through December for us to really work with either company to get them the data that they need to do our due diligence when it comes to the community, to get feedback to, and then bring something to you that we feel comfortable with. So it's definitely a lot, but that's okay.
So, and Jen, I think that's my point with that a la carte. I feel like there's going to be so much that needs to be put back on us. And quite frankly, and we've had this conversation multiple times, that this isn't our specialty. We're, you guys' job is to educate children, not to be drawing geo maps of the town. So I feel like at some point it is just best to hand it off to the professionals. Obviously, we need to make sure either company is going to understand that we're controlling the money and we're controlling how involved we want to be. If we want to be involved with community forums and admin teams and school committee meetings and everything else, they're going to have to, adapt to us. So I guess that's my only my thinking here is I would almost rather be locked into a contract. Because what if all of a sudden Dillinger, they're anticipating 75 to 150 hours, but just like a lawyer, we know how that can go in terms of
And the only thing I would say about the set quote is that I think if we're asking Ross Heber to do more when it comes to helping us plan the community forums or look at that data, I think that's going to cost us more. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to have people come out and chat with us. I don't know if other people have thoughts as well. But of course, we'll proceed however the committee feels is best.
So my initial thought, do we want to table this for a meeting so members can reread these because we just got one today at the last minute. So that was kind of where I was leaning, is if the members kind of want to take a little bit of time, maybe we can push this to the next meeting and take a little more time.
Yeah, that's
And that way, if members have any questions, we can prepare, and if that involves going to the company and getting those answers,
Yeah, we can do that.
we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, is that something, obviously we can't discuss it between the five of us and, that way, but would there be something that we would have a line of communication
I mean, so
to the company themselves, obviously?
So if you would like to, we could do two things. We could have both companies present at our upcoming meeting on the 28th and have all five of you there. Or you could select two of your members to represent the committee, and we could do something offline in between.
Well, and that kind of gets into the questions we were just having is, do we want to turn this over to the professionals, which is select one of them, or do we want to, talk to them and kind of nitpick and get, so it's like we're back at square one with, we need the professionals, but we want to have a say. So it's like, we can't keep pushing it down and unfortunately this is something we've been kicking down the road because we keep finding new things. So we're going to have to, my recommendation, and if members want, we kind of take a couple of weeks. If any individual members have individual questions, they can, send them to Dr. O'Neill. Maybe we get a little clarity, and then maybe we revisit the vote at the next meeting. But I want to be cautious and say, at the next meeting, there should be a vote because we have to start getting involved in the process.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we've reached a point where we have to bring somebody in because, again, this has been a discussion for how many years? a lot, right?
21.
Yeah, forever, like 20 plus years, right? So I think that we've definitely reached the end of that rope. You know, I understand Nick's concerns about the à la carte, but I would also counter with the fact that, you know, we have control over that à la carte as well, I would think. I don't think this is just them saying, okay, we're just gonna cherry pick this, and this. So, you know, I think that we do have to have a level of trust of the people that are doing all of this work. So, I mean, I'm happy to move it to the next meeting, but I definitely don't think we should be going any further than that, so that the work can be done, so that we can be prepped and ready to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think with a little bit of time, we can easily probably narrow these companies down pretty quickly.
Okay, so the committee has homework.
And our next meeting is Monday.
Oh, no, we'd have to do the 28th.
Do the 20th.
Because that's a quick one before town meeting, so probably.
So if the members want to read through the literature, come up with any questions for Dr. O'Neill, we will table this discussion and revisit this vote at our next full meeting, not before town meeting.
Thank you.
All right, any other business not anticipated? Dr. O'Neill.
I just have a couple things. Tomorrow evening, May 15th, is the Norton High School spring concert. I hope you will consider coming out and watching our talented students.
I'm gonna be there.
And then class night will be May 29th at Norton High School at 6:30, and then graduation June 4th at 6 p.m. at the Xfinity Center. So, got some fun weeks coming up.
As was casually mentioned, Monday is town meeting. There is surely going to be some exciting articles. I encourage everybody to go
I'll
out
be there.
and entertain, as is your right to vote.
Jen, is there anything that's on for schools that is pressing that we should maybe highlight quickly?
Other than our budget, we have no other warrants on the town meeting for this upcoming town meeting. However, our budget is there, and I think I can say this. At a recent finance committee meeting, they voted to move $500,000 from stabilization to the school district budget. That is something that's really, really important for us. We will still be just shy of level services, even with the $500,000, but if we do not get the $500,000, that puts us significantly in the hole for the upcoming school year. So we appreciate everyone's support.
I just have one quick thing. I just want to mention, probably should have done this at the beginning, but it's all right. Just Ed Potvin. I know he worked for Norton for many years as a coach, you know, in all the youth sports or whatever. He passed away, unfortunately. So I just want to take a quick second to remember Ed. And that is it. Thank you.
On a lighter note, sorry, next week, the middle school, you know, they're performing Annie for those 3 nights, so that's, you know, if you get a chance to go and check that out, I'm sure that'll be a good show.
Alright, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Bye.
Have a great night, thank you.